So you can see here, this is one of our standard rovers. I have the Pixy attached right here, and the Pixy is attached through the SPI connector to one of our Arduinos. And what I'm going to show you is how I'm actually going about wiring all of this together with the code to make the Pixy drive the Arduino. All right, so the first thing that I've done is I've actually wired the battery pack together with some appropriately colored wires, and I'm going to start hooking this together with the VEX motor controller. So let's get started on that part. So I have connected the negative, the black wire, which is going to go to the negative terminal of the battery right here. I'm going to put that in to the negative rail on this breadboard right here, and I have connected that to this point. And the reason I'm attaching it to the breadboard this way is I'm going to take the VEX motor controller and plug it in so that the black or the ground wire of the VEX motor controller is attached to the ground of the battery. So that's the first one that's attached there. I'm going to take the second one and attach that over here so that we have the same thing. And so the way I've connected this together is I have a wire that is connecting the black of this VEX motor controller to the black of this VEX motor controller. So those are now connected together. And then I have another wire that goes from this black wire of the VEX motor controller to ground. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is do a similar thing with the positive terminal of the battery, which is right here in red. I'm going to attach the positive terminal of the battery to the positive rail of the breadboard right there. Help me stay organized. And so I now need to wire up the VEX motor controllers the same way. So let's get some wires to do that. Try to keep my coloring consistent. So I'm going to take the red wire here and attach it to the other motor controller, like so. Okay, so now the reds are connected together, or the orange, which represents 5 volts, is connected together. And now I'm going to get another wire that attaches this VEX motor controller to the positive rail of the breadboard. That's this right here. So I need to get a red wire. All right, so I've got my red wire, and so now I'm going to attach it from this VEX motor controller right here to this motor controller here. Okay, and so now these are ideally hooked up. I have wires all over the place. I will clean this up a little bit later once I know everything is sort of wired together. So the next step is to connect the controls of the motor controllers to the Arduino. So to do that, I'm going to use the ports 5 and 6 on the Arduino, because those are, as you can tell from the little pound signs or hashtags, 5 and 6 are PWM controlled, so I can use those. So let me get some male-to-male connectors to be able to piece those together. Here they are, male-to-male. Again, I'm using white to try to be consistent with the color. So I'm going to take this motor controller here and attach it to just arbitrarily pin 6. So pin 6 on the Arduino there. And I'm going to take this one and attach it to pin 5. So those are right next to each other, and that's going to go to this control here. Okay, so the next phase is I'm going to use each of these VEX motor controllers to control one side of the robot. So this is pin 6, This is pin 5. Let's let pin 6 be the right side of our robot. So this will control both motors on this side. And I will let this other motor controller control the left-hand side, the left motors right here. Okay. So what I have to think about here is how I am connecting all of the right-hand side motors. These are all of those wires to essentially this output of the motor controller. So I'm gonna somehow need to get these connected to each other. So I need this yellow and this yellow, both connected to the red, and I need this black and this black connected together and attached to this output of the motor controller. So thinking about how I want to do that, probably the best way, thinking about it, is let me get some connectors and use the breadboard to manage some of those connections. Because then I know that the breadboard is the location of where all these wires come together, and it's gonna keep it clean, I think, if I do that. So let me get some connecting wires to make that happen. All right, here they are, connecting wires. And I have 2 of each color. I'm gonna try to use green to connect to the black wires of the motors. And I'm gonna use this other sort of neutral brown to connect to the other side when I'm ready to get going on that. So then we have sort of more vibrant colors, the blues and the purples to connect to the positive side. Okay, so I'm going to take the, let's see here, green, I'm going to attach to the black output of this motor controller right here. And I'm going to put those just arbitrarily in this rail here, right here. And this is going to be for connecting the ground wires, the black wires of the motor. So I'm going to attach this one here. And I also need to attach this one right here, which had its pin broken off, so I had to pull that off. I'm going to also connect that wire to the black wire right here. I'm going to kind of twist those together so we get some sort of connection between those. I probably should solder those together to make it a really strong connection, but I don't want to take the time to do that right now. I want to see if I can get everything working. So I'm going to take those, twist those together, and then just use some black electrical tape to hold those together. I'll do that here. There's that. Just like that. All right, so I'm just going to tape that like so. I'm going to try to take some of the strain of that connection off of where I'm taping so that the tape just maintains that connection together. So I now have all of the black wires connected together to the output of this motor controller. Let's now do the yellow connectors. So I'm going to grab one of my vibrant colors, the purple, and I'm going to put the purple in the positive pin there, and I'm going to then put that about rail 5 on this side. And so now I just need to plug the yellow wires into rail 5 here, like so. So there's the first one, and here is the second one, like so. Okay, all right. Before we go on to the other one, let's see if maybe we can think a little bit about cleaning this up so that it's not quite so crazy. So let me think about that, and then I'll talk about what I've decided. All right, so I think what I've decided here is that I'm gonna take all of the wires that correspond with this left motor controller and just sort of bundle them together. So I'm gonna get a a zip tie to just kind of twist those together and keep those together. That also means that when I know, when I see that one of these wires perhaps is pulled out of the breadboard, I know what bunch it belongs to, and so I can just put it right back where it belongs. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to wire the second motor controller over here, get it nice and well connected, and then we'll be ready to take a look at the Arduino. All right, so second motor controller here. Let's get all of these wires separated out. So here are two of the left-hand motor wires. Here are the other two left-hand motor wires. We have all of those together now. And let's put those in a different location on our breadboard. So let's arbitrarily say, let's put the black wires over on this end, over here. So maybe rail 30. Okay, so black and black, like this. Okay, so those are together, and I now want to connect those to the, number one, these both need to be connected to the black wire of the motor controller, like so. So there's that. Okay, so that's done. And now our yellow wires over here, we're going to connect to the same rail. So let's go a couple pins over, maybe 25. So put those here. Come on, little wire, get in there. There we go. There's 1 and 2. And then we'll take our blue wire, color we haven't used yet, and attach that to the output of our motor controller that is red. Okay? So that takes care of the red, the black of the second motor controller. Now, and think a little bit, I'm looking at this again, and I'm seeing that these wires are all kind of twisted around each other, which is going to make it sort of hard to keep these wires separate from everything else. So let's see here. How is that connected? Is there any way to kind of clean that up a little bit? Doesn't really look like it. Looks like some of the red wires are entwined with those yellow wires. So I might disconnect those and just twist them so that they are not inside of these red wires at all. Let's see if I can do that here. So I'm going to disconnect the yellows one more time because I know the blue is properly connected. And let's see if I can just twist those to be independent and separated from everything else. So those yellow wires here, maybe feed them this way underneath, and then attach them to where this blue is again. Yellow and yellow, okay. And maybe do the same thing with the blacks, which are connected over here. Black wires, pull those out. See if I can wrap those the same way I did the yellow wires so that they're sort of together with the other motor controller like this. Okay. There's not a lot of avoiding the rat's nest since I don't have like very short wires to help with some of these connections. So let's get those together. All right. And so now we just have this motor controller properly connected to these wires. And let's see if I can just get those wires together like so. Yeah, I might actually take some of these white wires and unplug them so that they're not wound up inside. So let me get a zip tie, put those together. 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 And then this one white wire, which I can see is sort of wound up inside of there, I'm just going to unplug it from the signal wire of that motor controller. Pull it out, sort of check, see where it's going, and just try to make it so that it isn't tangled up in all those wires. And I may just be able to bring it around like that and connect it back to the signal wire like so. Okay, so again, this is not pretty, but I think it will work. Okay, now this black wire has pulled out, but because I can see it's in the bundle of wires for the right-hand side here, I know it goes together with these wires here. Okay, so the last thing to deal with in terms of the wiring is our battery pack. So our wires are sort of wound around like that. So I might just zip tie these together so that those aren't really going anywhere. And then just throw that down. And maybe use another zip tie to hold the battery pack down on the robot. Okay, so there's that. Okay. Now, I'm seeing there is one last thing that I need to do, and that is I'm seeing that the Arduino is actually not powered in any way right now. We need to connect these rails here, the positive and negative. The positive needs to go to the V in on the Arduino right here, and then the negative is ground. We need to connect that there. So I need 2 more wires to hook those together. So let me see if I can get one more black and one more red. All right, so got my wires. So I'm gonna go from the red rail, which is right here, to the V in of the Arduino, which is here. And then I'm gonna go from the negative rail of the breadboard, which is our ground, connected to the ground of the battery, and put it on the ground of the Arduino. Okay. So we have our battery pack here. Let's do a quick check to see if we have hooked this all up correctly. So the Arduino should fire up. The Pixy should turn on. Let's see if we've done that. Okay, we've got lights on the Arduino. We've got a yellow light on the Pixy, so it looks like everything is wired together. And so I want to clean this up even a little bit more so that we don't have wires up against the wheels. Ultimately, it's going to be a good idea to also secure these things down much better than we have right now. Using perhaps some zip ties. Not totally sure how I'm going to do that yet, but part of the fun of figuring this out, I guess. So we would just sort of need to get all of this together and away from the wheels. There might be no avoiding that right now. So maybe a zip tie to hold these things, these wires all like this, together, squeezed together. And I might, just for the purpose of testing, leave the battery pack sitting, just sitting here. Again, not ideal. Better planning would have been a good idea to make sure that things don't get too crazy here. So that's, on a redesign, certainly something we would think about. Okay, so now this is working. Okay, so we are here in the Arduino software. Let me make the font a little bigger so that it's a little bit easier to see. Here we go, a little bit. And so I have added, this is almost directly the file that's come out of the Pixy software. I've added the servo.h library to this so that I get some servo control. And I'm going to do servo left motor, servo right motor. Left motor is the one that I think I said I connected to pin 5, and the other went to 6. Let's just confirm that with how I have connected this. So this over here is the right. Let's see here. What did I do? So this bundle over here was the right-hand side. And that appears to be controlled by, let's go to the motor controller that's attached to. That's here. Let's follow that one around. The right-hand side goes to pin 6. Okay, so the right-hand side is pin 6, the left-hand side is motor pin 5, so I've done that correctly, which is good. I've commented out the Zumo motors thing because we're not using Zumo motors. And I've made a little bit of an adjustment here. And so what I need to now do, I am setting the pin mode, left pin output, right pin output, and I've named that left motor pin and right motor pin. I put this 2-second delay in there so that we can let the Pixy boot up. So I've done that. And so let me clean some of this up. We have left motor attached to the left motor pin, and we want to attach the right motor to the right motor pin like this. We can leave much of the Pixy code the same. I think I've left a lot of this the same. I took some time to dig into this code and try to figure out what it is. Some of this is designed to manage the servos on the Pixy, which is important. So I left that in there. The big thing that I changed was this calculation of the left and the right. Because if you look in the comment, this is calculating the left wheel and the right wheel velocities based on the rotation translation velocity information that's coming from the Pixy. I rewrote those and just said I want to use the left and the right motors. I want those to be controlled by where the target is in the camera. Pan offset is calculated up here by finding the center of the frame and subtracting off the location of the x-coordinate of the blob that is found in the camera. So if it sees a big yellow blob, which maybe the big yellow ball is what I'm trying to track, this x-coordinate is the coordinate of that ball or that blob in the camera. And so I'm figuring out how far off from the center of the frame am I. It's calculating the same thing for the y, assuming that I want to also know how far from the center of the camera is the blob, so that if the ball or the target is exactly where I want it to be in the camera, it means my robot is pointed right at that object, right at that blob. So anyways, down here, I'm recalculating from this pan offset. I'm using the map function to make it so that when the pan offset is between -100 and 100, it's going to output a value between 1,000 and 2,000. And then what I can do is just, on the left motor, write that value, W-R-I-T-E, that value. And on the right motor, I'm going to enter the right value. And I'm going to leave almost everything else the same. The only other change I'm going to do down here, if there's no object detected, I'm going to do left motor. I'm going to write 1,500, which is in the middle of the range between 1,000 and 2,000, which means it's going to stop the motor. So I'm going to do that for both left and right. Okay, let's download this code and see if it works. So I'm now going to hook this up to the Arduino and download the new code, see if we get anywhere, see if we get anything at all out of it. So I will hit download on my computer. Make sure everything is configured the right way. It looks like it. So we'll hit download or upload to the board. You see the little lights flashing as that happens. Okay, now our Pixy. Let's just check and see. Here's the yellow ball I've been using. So, oh, we're getting something. That's good. So, as I'm running this, putting it right in the middle, we're getting some response. So let's see what happens when we now take this and put it on the ground. Okay, point it on the ground. Let's see what happens. It appears it is moving in the wrong direction. Look at that. So if you focus, if I put this in here, right? If I move the ball to the right and keep it in the frame, let's try to set that up, okay? It's actually running the left motor, which is what it's supposed to do, but it's running it backwards instead of forwards. So it's doing the correct behavior, but it's basically turning away instead of moving forward. So what I'm going to do in the program is, well, let's take a look at the program and see if we can figure out what's going on there. So in the program here, I have that left is equal to map 2 times pan offset. I'm gonna, I have +2 here, -2 there. I'm gonna try switching those two. Upload that code to the Arduino and see if that fixes the problem. There's the bell. Upload. All right, let's try it out. Let's take a look and see what's happening. There's our robot. Let's get it nice and centered so you can actually see here what it's doing. So let's scoot it back. All right, so if I throw down the ball, put it in the middle, it's backing up away from it. So it's sort of doing the reverse of what I want it to do. So we're not quite there. This means we still need to keep working on it, but that's the reality of what we're trying to do. So, see you next time.